Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're tuning into something pretty crucial for, well, both industry and our everyday well-being, the global market for hearing protection devices.
That's right.
We've got this detailed 2025 market analysis here, and, our goal is to sift through the data, pull out the really important stuff. What's driving this market? Where's it going?
Exactly. And this report, it paints quite a picture. We're talking about a market estimated at roughly 2.6 billion US dollars just for 2025.
Okay, 2.6 billion.
But what's really interesting is where it's heading. The projections show, well, substantial growth. It's expected to cross the $4 billion mark by 2033.
Wow, over 4 billion.
Yeah, which means an average annual growth rate, a CAGR, of about 5.6% over that time frame.
Okay. 5.6% CEGR. So starting at 2.6 billion, going past 4 billion, what's the main reason why this big expansion?
Well, the report really points to one fundamental driver: increasing noise pollution globally.
Noise pollution, right.
Think about it more: industry, cities getting louder, transportation noise.
Mm-hmm.
It all adds up.
Mm.
And all that noise just naturally pushes up the demand for ways to, protect our hearing.
Yeah, that's a clear connection. So, okay, where is this demand strongest right now? Which regions?
Geographically, North America is currently the leader by quite a margin, actually over 40% of the global market.
Over 40%.
Yeah. Their market size for 2025 is pegged at around $972 million. And they're expected to grow steadily, about 4.1% annually through 2033.
Okay, 4.1%. So dominant now and still growing steadily. What's behind that strength in North America specifically?
Well, if you dig a bit deeper, the U.S. is really the powerhouse there.
Uh-huh.
$767 million in 2025.
Okay.
And their growth is projected at 3.9% per year. The report mentions a few things. The noise pollution we talked about, sure, but also really strong workplace safety regulations.
Ah, regulations. Always a factor.
Definitely. And also just growing awareness among
Yeah.
people about, hearing health being important.
So it's regulations actually kind of pushing the market, not just ticking a box.
Precisely.
Right.
And you see that pattern in Canada, too. Their market's about 117 million for 2025, but with a slightly higher growth rate, forecast 4.9%.
Higher, interesting.
And there, the report specifically calls out industrial safety regs as a key driver. Mexico is also significant, around 88 million in 2025, growing at 4.6%. It all adds up to North America's lead.
Got it. So North America leading the pack, but Europe's a major player too, you said.
Oh, absolutely. Europe holds over 30% of the global share. That translates to roughly $762 million in 2025.
Still very significant.
And they're looking at a pretty healthy growth rate, too, 4.7% annually. What's interesting in Europe is the diversity across countries.
Right, it's not monolithic. So give us a quick snapshot. Who are the leaders there?
Well, Germany really stands out, about a $151 million market in 2025, growing at 4.9% a year. That's linked heavily to their, strong manufacturing sector.
Makes sense.
Then you have the UK, close behind in size at 128 million, but with actually a slightly higher growth projection, 5.5%.
Oh, okay.
And for the UK, it's a mix: regulations, safety awareness, and just strong industrial demand. Russia also has a sizable market, around 118 million, though its growth is expected to be a bit more moderate, 3.7%.
So it really is a patchwork of different national situations driving growth across Europe.
Exactly. You've got France around 70 million, Italy at 65 million, Spain about 62 million, all showing decent growth, like between 3.8 and 4.1%.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have some smaller but quite dynamic markets. Sweden, for example, about 24 million, growing at 4.8%.
Mm.
And even Luxembourg, smaller base, maybe 9 million, but showing strong 5% annual growth.
Right.
And Denmark, Switzerland.
Yeah.
It really shows how varied things are across the continent.
Okay, so the big established players are North America, Europe, but you mentioned, or the report mentioned, a region where things are really picking up speed, even faster growth.
That's right. Asia Pacific, APAC.
Right.
Now they hold about 23% of the market globally. So roughly $631 million for 2025.
Okay, 23%.
But here's the kicker. Their projected annual growth rate is the highest by a significant margin, 8.3%, between 2025 and 2033.
8.3%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fast.
It really signals a market that's, expanding rapidly, accelerating.
What's fueling that kind of takeoff in APAC?
The report puts a lot of emphasis on the sheer pace of industrialization happening across the region. Think manufacturing, construction sectors where noise exposure is often, quite high.
Right, lots of new activity.
Exactly. And countries like China and India are really leading that charge. China's market is estimated at almost 265 million for 2025, with projected growth of 7.8% annually.
Still very high.
Yeah, driven by that industrial boom, plus supportive regulations coming in and just growing demand overall.
And you mentioned India sounds like it's a real standout.
It absolutely is. India's market size now, around 63 million in 2025, is smaller than China's, of course. But it has the highest projected national growth rate anywhere,
Which
an
is?
impressive 10.2% per year.
Wow, 10% growth.
Yeah. And it's driven by, well, a potent mix. Expanding industries, rising noise pollution, particularly in cities and industrial zones, and just more awareness spreading about hearing protection.
A perfect storm for growth, in a way.
Kind of. And it's not just China and India. Japan, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, Southeast Asia as a whole. They're all contributing significantly to APAC's really strong growth story.
Fascinating to see that shift in momentum geographically. Okay, what about the other regions? South America, Middle East, Africa. What's the picture there? Are they growing too?
They are, yeah. South America holds just over 5% of the global market, about $100 million in 2025, with a projected growth of 6.3% annually.
Pretty solid growth too.
Yeah, Brazil and Argentina are the main players there. Brazil driven by growing industry. Argentina seeing influence from, again, regulations and noise issues. Colombia, Peru, Chile also contributing.
Okay. And the Middle East?
Middle East is around 2% globally, about $105 million in 2025, but with quite strong growth projected at 6.9%.
Also growing faster than the global average then?
Exactly. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Turkey are key markets. Again, driven by industrial projects, construction, and tighter safety standards being adopted. Qatar and Egypt are significant too.
And Africa?
Africa's the smallest currently, about 1% of the global market, maybe $58 million in 2025, but still showing healthy growth potential, 5.9% annually.
Still growing.
Yeah. South Africa's the largest market there, followed by Nigeria, where increasing industrialization is a key factor. The rest of Africa combined also shows steady growth.
So it seems like everywhere, these themes of industrial activity and safety regulations keep popping up as major drivers.
That's definitely the pattern, yes.
Now, the report also sliced the data differently, right? By product type, where they're used, how they're sold. What trends did you see there?
Yeah, that was interesting too. So product-wise, the fastest growing segment is actually electronic earplugs and earmuffs.
The high-tech stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, things with smart noise cancellation, maybe built-in communication. They're becoming more appealing for certain jobs.
I can see that.
But, and this is important, the largest share of the market overall is still held by traditional earplugs.
The simple foam or silicone ones?
Yep. Because they're affordable, they're convenient, they work in lots of different situations. So they're still the backbone. Moldable earplugs are also seeing good growth because of the custom fit they offer.
Okay, so tech is growing fast, but the basics are still dominant. Makes sense. What about where they're being used? Which industries?
Application-wise, manufacturing is the biggest user sector right now. That's where a lot of the demand comes from, driving innovation and, large volume orders.
Right.
However, the fastest growing demand is coming from the construction industry, which makes sense, given how noisy construction sites usually are.
Definitely.
And interestingly, looking at decibel levels, the fastest growth is in protection for the 61 to 120 decibel range. That lines up perfectly with those heavy industry construction-type noise levels. Although the largest segment overall right now is protection for the 20 to 60 decibel range. Probably because that covers a wider variety of workplaces, maybe even some recreational noise. It offers protection, but lets you still hear things around you.
Got it. And distribution. How do these things actually get to the people who need them?
Well, currently, direct sales channels have the biggest market share. So manufacturers selling directly to, say, large industrial companies.
Building relationships.
Exactly. Allows for personalized service, customization maybe. But the fastest growing channel is indirect sales.
Meaning?
Distributors, retailers, online platforms, all those other ways to buy. It reflects this trend towards making these devices easier to get, more accessible for everyone, not just big companies.
Okay, so more convenient ways to buy are gaining ground fast. It definitely sounds like a really dynamic market, lots of moving parts. Did the report mention the big companies, the key players in this space?
It did, yeah. The landscape is, well, it has some major players you'd probably recognize. Companies like 3M, Honeywell, MSA Safety.
Big names in safety equipment.
Right. They're heavily focused on R&D, innovation, quality, and making sure their products meet all the safety standards, which are pretty strict.
Compliance is key.
Absolutely. But it's not just the giants. There are also lots of smaller companies that specialize maybe in niche applications or offering very customized hearing protection solutions.
Filling the gaps.
Precisely. And the report mentioned some recent activity too, like 3M launching new earplugs with adaptive noise cancellation tech just recently, and Amplifon acquiring another company, HearSafe, to boost their custom and digital offerings.
So innovation and consolidation happening side by side.
Yeah, it shows the market is definitely active and evolving.
Okay, this has been really thorough. If we had to boil it all down, what are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive into the hearing protection market?
Right. I'd say first, the global market is definitely growing strongly. That 5.6% CAGR is significant. And it's mainly pushed by, well, more noise everywhere and stricter safety rules.
Noise and rules. Got it.
Yeah. Second, while North America and Europe are the biggest markets now, Asia-Pacific is clearly where the fastest growth is set to happen. That 8.3% figure really stands out.
The future growth engine.
Exactly. Third, product-wise, we're seeing this interesting split. High-tech electronic devices are gaining momentum fast, but the traditional, simple earplugs still dominate the overall volume because of cost and ease of use.
Both ends of the spectrum are important.
Right. And finally, how people buy these is shifting. Indirect channels online, retail are growing fastest, making protection more accessible. Direct sales are still huge, but the trend is towards broader availability.
That paints a really clear picture. It's obviously not just about sticking foam in your ears anymore, is it? It's this dynamic space shaped by tech, by regulations, and I guess by a growing awareness that hearing is precious.
Well said.
And thinking about these trends, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Beyond the workplace, in our cities, our daily lives getting noisier, what's next? What other innovations might pop up as the tech gets better and more people realize the risks? This market feels like it's about more than just safety equipment. It's kind of reflecting how we're learning to live with sound or maybe manage sound in the modern world.
That's a great point. It really pushes us to think about how these trends affect not just industries, but what? Personal health and quality of life.
Mm.
It'll be fascinating to see what comes next, what new solutions emerge for this very modern problem of noise.
Definitely food for thought. And for our listeners, if any specific region like that booming APAC market or maybe the rise of electronic HPDs caught your attention, perhaps that's an area to explore further. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.